Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second monthly live stream. Typically, we've been trying to do these on the first Friday of every month, but last weekend was the 4th of July, so we were not working. So here we are on the second Friday of the month with our monthly live Q&A sesh. Thank you for joining us this morning. Looks like a few people are starting to filter in. We got Steph right over there, right next to me. She's on a different camera at the same desk for the most part. And then also on the stream down in the chat section, we have our moderators, which is the Explorers Life team. We've got Grace, our content manager. She's going to be sharing links to videos and blog posts that may provide some additional insight for some of these questions that y'all might be asking. We've also got Chad, our operations manager, and he's going to be answering some of the more technical questions in the chat that we might need some more clarification on. Nicholas, our sales manager, will be in the chat also as well, doing the exact same thing. Morgan is our installation manager, and she will be in there answering some questions as well. And if you have any questions about potentially getting your system installed by us, reach out to Morgan. She'll be able to help you out. Ira's also over there as our lead installer, and he is also going to be doing some of the more technical things. He handles a lot of the consultations alongside Chad, and so you can answer any of the questions in the chat that we don't necessarily get to, although we're going to try to get to everything. And last but definitely not least is Sean and Kyle, our warehouse team, normally pick, packing, and shipping all of the kits that you see on our store and in our site, but they've kind of pulled away for the morning to join us on this live chat. See if we can just have a good time. Steph, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I am excited for this weekend and the event that we're going to. You want to talk more about that?
Sure, yeah. This weekend we're going to the Colorado Tiny House Festival over in Brighton, just outside of Denver, basically. And this is going to be our first tiny house show as Explorers Life. We just launched our first off-grid cabin electrical system on shop.explorers.life yesterday. Steph and the team have been hard at work getting all of the kits and parts and all that kind of stuff put together so that we can sort of expand that product offering to live up to our name of mobile, marine, and off-grid. Off-grid being, cabins, stationary applications, and stuff like that. So if you're in the Denver area, come out to the Colorado Tiny House Festival this weekend. We'd love to see y'all, and we're actually debuting our new event trailer that actually has that off-grid electrical system installed in it. We were both up late last night putting the final touches on it. We've got all of our stuff loaded up, and as soon as we're done with this live stream, we are getting ourselves ready to leave. So
we wouldn't be Explorers Life if we weren't doing things very last minute.
I'm just always going to just fill my time with, it doesn't matter what the thing is I'm always going to be working on something up until the last minute, even if it doesn't need to be worked on.
We got this trailer 2 months ago, 3 months ago, maybe. It's been sitting out there for a while. We got the graphics put on it, everything, and just then didn't install the electrical system for way too long.
Yeah.
Whoops.
I feel like it's we had this long list of things to do, and it's priorities, priority 1, priority 2. And yeah, I think whatever has the most upcoming due date just, gets priority no matter what. That's probably not good or healthy, but it's what we do.
It's who we are.
Okay, I think that's pretty much it. So as this live Q&A session kind of rolls along, y'all just leave your questions in the chat box below, and we're going to do our best to get to all of them. We'll probably be on this live stream for an hour, probably cap it here at 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. But yeah, we got about 50 minutes going to get to as many of these questions as we can. I'll be calling out for Grace to put some information about to resources and videos we've made, because at this point I think we've made a video over most things.
A lot.
Not everything, but a lot of things. Okay, do we have any questions rolling in yet?
We do.
Yes.
First and foremost, Samuel Adams asked if we would take a question about a transfer switch.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
Okay, yeah, if you'll just go ahead and post that. I was going to type it out, but figure we'll just ask it here. Okay, so first question is, love your channel and know it's been an over-asked question, but I'm just starting my build and curious if you have any recommendations to future-proof an electrical system, 12 volt, 24 volt, or 48 volt.
Yeah, so the whole 12 volt, 24 volt, 48 volt, that really comes down to how much power you're going to need out of your system, most specifically in, well, given that this is a camper build, we'll just assume that this is like a camper van or RV system. Did it say that in the question?
It didn't, no.
Okay, we'll just assume it's an RV situation. If it's a residential stationary kind of application, that's always going to be 48 volt. It's pretty cut and dry for the most part. But if it's a camper, the 12 volt, 24 volt, 48 volt, that's a matter of how much inverting power basically you need. If you need 3 kVA or less, let's just call it 3,000 watts or less of inverting capacity, that's going to be better set up for a 12 volt system. If you need from 3,000 watts to 5,000 watts or 6,000 watts, let's say, that's going to be a 24 volt system. And if you need more than 6,000 watts of inverting power, that's going to be a 48 volt system. I would say most people are in that lower, 3,000 watt inverter range, which, just works the best with a 12 volt system. So there's more parts availability. We have more options for DC to DC charging. It's a simpler system to set up and understand with sort of like less troubleshooting on down the road. It's just one of those like tried and true, it just works kind of situations. So
awesome.
That's the short answer.
Cool. Next question is there a kit that you have for rewiring an old RV from 1969?
Wow, 1969. Yeah, so, I think what you're going to be looking at there, let me pull up a resource here. Get it open real quick. Okay, so if you go to, if I screen share, oh, that's not it. That's my desktop. How do I get that back? Un momento. Oh, that's right. I remember how to do this. Let me switch my windows here.
This is definitely our first time.
Yeah. It's like prior to this, we've live streamed once every 6 months or whatever. And so it's I forget how to do this stuff. Hey, and there we are. I just had to switch my windows. Okay, so the question was, do we have a kit or system that is for rewiring an old RV? And it sounds like you're probably talking about total rewire kind of situation. And, if you're ripping all the electrical out of your RV remodel, you're basically starting from scratch. And, from scratch means, you're adding in your own or a new breaker box, all that kind of stuff. So, you would sort of consider yourself a van, schoolie, and expedition truck because all three of those are from scratch builds. That's realistically all these different kits down here on our system picker is going to take you to a system that you're after. So you can click into any of these. It doesn't matter. They're all the same system. You just click into van, continue. And it's going to ask you a series of questions, sort of figuring out what you need. So if you only have 120 volt loads, you don't have any 120, 240 volt loads, you select that. And then it's going to ask you what kind of shore power you need. Most people just need 30 amp shore power unless you're doing multiple air conditioners. And then how much battery bank capacity do you need? So a couple different options there. And, that's sort of based on, how much power you can use on a day-to-day basis. And we just wrapped up our system sizing playlist on the channel. So if you don't know how much power you need, you can go check that playlist out. And maybe Grace can leave a link to our to that system sizing playlist in the chat. So most people fall in this 400 to 800 amp hour range on this particular system. Inverting power, 3 kVA is our most common kit by far. And most of our tutorials are revolving around that. So that's going to bring you to the Explorer van wiring kit. And that's actually pretty much what you need. Now, this is going to be everything from the batteries to the solar panels all the way up to the breaker box. We don't have like specific wiring kits for like 120 volt outlets necessarily. But we do have the marine wiring that you kind of add on after the fact. And then, you get your boxes and your outlets and stuff like that from your local hardware store, just kind of whatever electrical boxes you need. We do have various like puck light kits and stuff like that. If that's kind of the direction you're going to have to go. But yeah, that's kind of if you get hung up and you're not really sure, if you get kind of lost in the system selection process, just shoot us a support ticket at shop.explorus.life/support. We've got a pre-sales option that we can kind of point you in the right direction and make sure you actually get what you need. So that's that.
Very good. Nice. Okay, if I'm using a 20 amp breaker in my 120 volt AC system, do I need to use 20 amp outlets, or is 15 amp fine?
That's a great question. 15 amp is fine as long as you have more than one of them. And so like your standard duplex outlet, I don't have any, just kicking around here on the desk, but just your standard duplex outlet that has, two 15 amp outlets on it, that counts as multiple outlets. So that's pretty much how that works. It's a little convoluted and a little weird, and you can really get into the weeds. And if you want to start an argument, go to any electricians like Facebook group and then ask that question and then say somebody's wrong. Wow. But yes, if you've got a 20 amp circuit with 12 gauge wire, you can do multiple 15 amp outlets on that.
Yeah, cool. Okay, Derek asked, do you know if there's a way to reset Victron components? For example, the Sero GX and LCD panel Bluetooth pin. I bought it. They changed the generic ones. Okay. I bought it and they had changed the generic one, The generic ones didn't work. Sorry.
So yes, I don't recall off the top of my head how to do it. But you have to use the PUK code, the PUK code that's on the side of the servo. And that will help you reset. That's the same with realistically any Victron components. You've got a little sticker on the side of the component that you can go into the Victron Connect app and click the three little dots on the top right corner, and then it'll say something to the degree of reset password, and then you just have to use that PUK code, PUK, is a little, 6 or 8 digit code next to it, and then that's what it's looking for a password reset.
Cool. Yeah, if I'm not sure if Ira is on today, but if Ira is on, I know he's done that recently.
Yeah.
He might be able to provide some more insight there too.
Yeah.
Okay, Craig asked, I have 600 watts of solar and a Victron 150 MPPT. When no load, the voltage sits around 67 volts. When a load is connected and it starts charging, the voltage drops to about 48 volts. Would this be normal?
48 volts. That would be normal. Because what's happening there is whenever you don't have a load, your solar panels are operating at an open circuit voltage. And that's just them like resting there and just like chilling out, and they're not doing anything. But once they start to actually produce power, it goes into a maximum power point voltage, which is its functioning voltage. And so, 40 something volts, you'd have to look at your panel's stats. I think that sounds a tiny bit low maybe, but nothing I'd be like really concerned about, just depending on which panels you're using. But that is normal for the panel voltage to kind of drop once the power is actually coming out of the panel. You'll kind of notice on your spec sticker for the solar panels that you've got a VOC, which is volts open circuit, and then you've got like a VMP, which is a volts like maximum power, I think is what it stands for. And you'll notice that those two voltages are different, based on if the panel's producing power or not. So it sounds like what you've got going on is pretty normal and fine and stuff like that. But if you said this is going to a Victron charge controller, keep an eye on the history tab of your Victron Connect app for your charge controller. And then that's going to tell you how much power your P max is using, on a or your panels or your whole array is producing on a day-to-day basis. And that's really where you can start to see trends and be able to sort of verify that your system's working properly.
Cool. Awesome. Daniel asked, can you help me figure out how to calibrate my Victron system battery state of charge? It's all over the map. It's worked well past 0%. And then yesterday it died at 35% using the Smart Shunt and Servo Touch 50.
So that sounds like there's definitely a settings issue. And what I would do there is, let's see here, we're going to screen share. If you'll navigate to the blog, so if you're at our shop.
Yeah, actually, Chad also jumped in on that one and said to shoot us an email so we can send you the settings sheet.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that, but he'd already answered that.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we can send you a settings cheat sheet. Another way you can sort of find this kind of stuff, especially if you don't have Battleborn batteries, because all our cheat sheets are sort of set up for Battleborn batteries, which you can sort of use that as a template to reach out to your battery manufacturer and stuff. But, if you also go to up here to resources, all blog posts, and then go to resources and then electrical component programming, then it has all of our blog posts about component programming. And these will have those cheat sheets in there for the most part. Although I'm just noticing that we don't have one over the BMV 712, I think, which is realistically the one you need. Do we have that in drafts? Is it written and we just didn't publish it?
That's a good question. But we have it. If you email us, we can send that to you.
Yeah, that one's pretty easy.
Yeah. Okay. I lost where I am. Which one did we just answer? Smart Shunt. Okay, that one. Michael asked, okay. I think, Michael, were you needing help on megafuse sizes? I just want to make sure I have all of the information. Looks like 24 volt system. We've got all of the system specs here. I just want to know what your question is. So we'll come back to that one. If you can post that in the chat for me. And then Bill asked, I'm purchasing a new camper. I already have batteries, not Battleborn. Would it be possible to have you program a new Victron Multiplus 3K to X120 if I purchase the Multiplus from you?
So, kind of going back to the programming sheet that I just kind of shared, go to the blog, so Explorers Life, resources, electrical component programming. Got a blog post in there that's how to program a Multiplus Quattro, and it's going to help you figure out how to get the settings from your battery manufacturer of choice. We don't program for anything other than Battleborn batteries because there are 1,000 different battery manufacturers out there, and trying to communicate with those battery manufacturers is impossible. There's so many battery manufacturers out there that are marketing companies disguised as battery companies, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. And they basically don't know what their settings should be. And historically, whenever we reach out, we try to get black and white answers, and they simply won't get them to us. So it's a liability for us to program something for you based on that. So we've written a blog post that will help you find the settings that you need and hopefully communicate with your chosen battery manufacturer, because ultimately you're the customer, and so they should be helping you as the customer, and they're not likely to help us because we're not the customer.
Cool. Okay, jumping back to Michael's question, he said it is questions on megafuse sizes. So that depends on everything in your system. I know you've got a few of the system specs on here. I would recommend just going to shop.explorers.life and looking up the wiring kits for all of these. We have wiring kits for every single one of them. We figured out the wire sizes and mega fuse sizes for you. So put into our shop all of the different specs that you've got in your system, and that will show you all of the wiring kits. You can just buy the wiring kits and then you've got everything, or if you just want to find out the mega fuse sizes, then they're there as well.
Yep. We've kind of done the legwork for y'all. I mean, we do have videos that teach you how to size fuses. You know, if you search on YouTube for Explorers Life, how to size fuses, you know, then you can, you know, watch all the, you know, sort of learn more about the tech behind the tech. That was the wrong word. Learn more about the, you know, the strategies behind, I don't know, I'm struggling with what that word is. You can watch a video that will teach you how to size fuses.
There you go.
But yeah, you know, we've kind of done the legwork for you over on the shop, if you're trying to, you know, make it easy.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Rob says, I'm not sure my Victron BMV 712 shunt is reading my 2 Battleborn 270 amp batteries correctly. How do I recalibrate it to read correctly? I got a lot of settings issues this morning.
Lots of settings issues. I feel like that's always the case though. So settings for the shunt. If you think that it's if you have like, you know, if the calibration is in regards to, you don't feel like the battery percentage is correct, it's likely your settings is incorrect. You know, and like Steph said earlier, if you'll shoot us a message, we have a cheat sheet available that we can just like send over to you, and that you can double check all of your settings and make sure that those are good to go. Because if your BMV 712 or shunt or whichever shunt you've chosen to use is not set up properly, it may show 100%, but your batteries aren't actually 100%. And that settings cheat sheet, you know, if you copy over the settings and then you recharge the system, you know, from shore power, that way it's kind of guaranteed, you know, overnight, let's say, then it'll recalibrate itself to 100%, and then it'll be accurate going forward. In the event that what your question is you think that it's not accurately measuring like the current coming across it. Let's say you have all of your loads turned off, you know, all your switches and everything, like your fridge is turned off, but it's still saying you're drawing, I don't know, 100 amps or something like that. You basically have to remove your main system fuse and then do a zero current calibration in the settings. So settings, scroll down, zero current calibration. Once that main system fuse is removed, then you can sort of do that. So that's a lot more rare of a problem. So don't go pushing that button unless you sort of know what you're doing, and if that's the case. But if it's just the matter of the battery percentage is not messed up or not matching up, then yeah, just shoot us a message with the with that, and we'll get that cheat sheet sent over. We should need to just publish that cheat sheet somewhere, so we can just link
I thought
to
we
it.
had it published.
I think we did at some point in time.
Who knows? Excuse me. Okay. When wiring two 250 watt and two 100 watt panels in series and parallel based on your diagram in your blog post, does it matter what kind of Y connector we use? We used a wired Y connector, still no power.
No, it shouldn't matter. Yep. Yeah, any MC4 branch circuit combiner or branch connector should work fine for that.
Yeah, you might just have a bad branch connector.
Bad branch connector, or just a bad connection, like a poor crimp or something like that. That could be the case. You know, sometimes if you don't push that PV connector in there, I can't say MC4 connector. I almost said MC4 connector. They're going to come after us again.
That is a registered trademark, copyrighted, whatever word. Can't say MC4.
Yeah, it's like the Kleenex version of tissue, and man, they'll come after you. Anyway, if you don't have that PV connector come in, not that I'm bitter about any of that. That was so much work trying to go through and change everything. So if you don't have the pin for the PV connector pushed all the way up into the connector, it may look good from the outside, but it's not necessarily up in there all the way, and it's not making contact. So that could be the problem potentially.
Cool.
Yep.
I'm gonna jump down because I just noticed one and wondered if that was the same name, and then it definitely is. Hi, Tim. Tim Martin from Blanchard is on.
Oh, hi. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Okay. Back to questions. James asked, do you know when you're going to do a video on the solar priority for the Victron system? I'm really interested in that.
We don't have it's in our queue, but it's not immediately scheduled. Our academy that we're producing is over 100 videos long at this point, and we're probably, maybe Grace could put up how many videos in we are. I don't know, we're like 20 of them in. And so we're going through the list in a logical progression. And so I would estimate all of our stuff on Multiplus is going to happen either late this year or early next year. But I'd have to look at the schedule. I mean, that's still a little ways out in all reality. So.
Cool. Okay. I'm going to skip one because I think he just added more information. So I want to make sure I read it all the way through. But so this one, without looking for an endorsement, how's your experience been with LiTime batteries? Do you have any experience with LiTime?
Personally, no, I don't. Just through customers, basically. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
And there's your answer.
Yeah, I don't have any experience with that particular battery manufacturer, aside from many customers of ours have used them with mostly good luck. I think it's one of those things that, feel them out. I guess I recommend Battleborn batteries because they just consistently work. They've consistently worked since we started working with them back in 2017. There are 1,000 other battery manufacturers on the market, and I know everybody else has their own battery preference. But, if you want to give them a shot, do it. I think that's great. I think trying out new things and everything like that. But yeah, it's just I can't really vouch for it necessarily, but just because I can't vouch for it doesn't necessarily mean it's a terrible idea or something like that. I'll let you know if I think something's a terrible idea.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't think that's a terrible idea.
Okay, jumping back to Flowpack's question. I'm just going to work through this with you because I couldn't process it while listening to you. Okay, so I have a 48 volt, 300 amp hour battery. I want to run 50 feet of 6 gauge wire to a Victron 48 volt to 12 volt converter and wire 12 volt into my RV 12 volt system. Could I do this? If I was to run a 12 volt for 50 foot, I would probably need...
Can we pop this up on the screen somehow?
I don't know.
Can you send it to me?
Sure.
How are you going to send it to me?
I'm going to send it to you in Google Chat.
Because I'm going to have to read this if I want to answer it. There's
Yeah.
a lot. It seems like
there's a lot of information.
there's a lot of numbers here. 1 second.
Okay, well, it seems to be more so of a wire sizing question. Oh, I see. 4/0 wire. It said 400 wire, but I think that's supposed to say 4/0 wire. But running 48 volt would 6 gauge. Yeah. Okay. I get the question now. So yes, to your answer or to your question about if it's a 50 foot positive and 50 foot negative run, that makes it a 100 foot run. Yes, that's correct. So if you go over into our wire sizing calculator, can you pull that up, Nate?
Yeah, if you'll just give me some directions here on this. Okay, so I'm going to screen share. We're going to work through this together. So if you go to explorus.life, resources, calculators, wire sizing calculator. And then, what's next?
And then, okay, so we have sorry, my screen is delayed. So we have a 100-foot run.
So that's going to be
50 feet of positive, 50 feet of negative. So 100.
100 total.
100 total. Let's see. What do you need now?
Voltage.
So it's a 48 volt run.
And okay, 48 volt, 300 amp hour battery. I want to run 50 feet of 6-gauge wire to a Victron 48 to 12 volt converter and wire 12 volt into my 12 volt RV system. Can I do this? If I was to run a 12 volt for 50 foot, I'd probably need 4-aught wire, but running 48 would 6-gauge do. I'm sort of not following this. You know, all this stuff you sort of want to keep as close together as you can. You know, but if you've got your let me just hop off of here for a second. So if you've got your you know, your pre-existing electrical system in your RV with a factory 12 volt battery, just leave that factory 12 volt battery in place, and then put your 48 volt to 12 volt converter or charger in line in between your 48 volt battery bank and your 12 volt converter. Keep it 48 volts all the way over to your factory 12 volt battery, and then that way that wire can be much smaller. That's probably what I would do, and what we've done in the past, and what we recommend for our like 24 volt systems powering OEM RVs. Grace, maybe you can share the video we did of the fifth wheel last year, where we did the 24 volt electrical system that's still powering all the 12 volt loads. I think that would possibly give you some insight into how we sort of recommend doing that. You know, I don't recall what the length is for our 24 to 12 volt converter wiring kit that we have designed for that same purpose. I don't know what the max length is, but it can be pretty long on the 24 volt side of things. So, but we use 6-gauge wire in that particular kit. So
cool. Okay. What is the amp output on the DC side on a Multiplus 2K? Is it programmable?
Yeah, you can drop the charging amperage down. As far as like what the actual amperage is, I don't recall, but I'll show you how to find it. You know, if you go to our shop.explorers.life, go to components, go to inverter chargers, wait for it to load, and then go to, you know, here's a Multiplus 12 2K. And then this one is programmable from 80 amps to 50 amps of charging. So that's pretty much how you find that. You know, the 3K is 50 amps to 120 amps. So, but yes, it is programmable with the MK3 USB programming dongle, the same as you would program the rest of the Multiplus.
Cool. Okay, Reese said, I'm about to install a bus bar for my positive leads in my RV. I have my DC to DC charge controller, generator, and battery bank wires all going to this bar. 2 questions. One, should specific loads be connected on the bar be closer to the battery bank wire than the others?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a code or a best practice or a standard or whatever, but like try to put all of your biggest loads closer together. You know, you could land the wire coming from the Lynx distributor, you know, from your upgraded battery bank, you know, put it on one stud. And then, you know, for me, I'm going to put my generator stud or wire directly on that same stud. So you've got basically battery to generator. You know, that wire is, you know, it's a lug to lug connection. You can stack up to 4 lugs on a single stud. But aside from that, like, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. But yeah, you should definitely like put all of your biggest wires as close together on the bus bar as you can, for the most part.
Perfect. And the second part of that question is, in what order should the washers, lock washers, lug, nut, etc. be installed on the bus bar stud?
So the bus bar is obviously the bottom part, and then your lug is going to go immediately on the bus bar with no washers, no lock washers or anything like that in between.
Very important.
Very important, yeah. We just recently saw a very melted part. That was because there was a washer in place, and it very much got started a fire. But the installation was clean, and there wasn't like stuff laying around and sawdust laying around, so ultimately like that big hazard wasn't a problem. But you should not put washers in between the flow of power of any component. So bus bar, lug right on top of that, and then another lug if that makes sense. And then your washer, lock washer nut on top of all that.
Yeah, awesome. And also, I just wanted to shout out and thank you to Reese for numbering your questions. That is super helpful, guys.
Wildly helpful.
That's very, very helpful. Okay. I have an Airstream van that came with 2 Battleborn batteries and a Xantrax inverter. Can I buy a blueprint from you guys to do an upgrade, adding 4 more batteries and 3,000 watts Victron inverter, 3,000 watt multi plus 2. Thanks. Sorry, I as I was reading that, I thought I don't know why I read this that way, but I read it as, can I buy blue paint? And in my head I was like, yeah, just paint that inverter blue and now it's Victron.
I want Victron, but I can't really afford it. Can I just paint my Xantrax inverter blue and call it good?
I need more coffee, apparently.
Yeah, that's fine. We're up late. So yes, you can paint it blue. I don't know that you'll get no. So yeah, the electrical system kits that we have, like realistically, they are for upgrading electrical systems. And so if you navigate to our homepage of our shop.explorers.life, and then sort of follow the prompts down here, it's going to take you to a specific kit. If you don't want to go through the prompts and you think that this is AI and you don't like AI, which it's not, I made this, you can go up here to shop and then electrical systems, and then build your own electrical kit, and then sort of choose what you've got going on over there. Let's say, what kind of camper was this? What did it say? Let's just call it a tow behind camper.
Airstream van. No, it's a van.
Oh, it was a van. So that's a motorhome if it's a Airstream. So it's pre-manufactured motorhome. And then you've got your various options here of various motorhome kits. So, was this did you say 3K or 2K?
3K.
So 3K is our Explorer line of kits. Explorer Lite is our our kits featuring a multi-plus 2K. So the 3K is this Explorer right here, Explorer 30 amp motorhome. And so, yep, that'll get you exactly what you need. All the parts, kits, lugs, heat shrink, fuses, the diagram, all that kind of stuff, that'll help you do that. And then, if you go to Explorers Life YouTube channel, we have a playlist for upgrading a motorhome with this specific kit that you can use sort of as your guide as you go through that process. And maybe Grace can share a direct link to the upgrade that we did last year on the motorhome with the 30 amp Explorer wiring kit.
It was your mom's motorhome, wasn't it?
It was. It's my mom's motorhome. It's actually sitting
right out there,
like 30 feet that direction right
now. Okay, what are your thoughts on a Servo SGX versus the standard Servo GX? I'm thinking this Servo GX touchscreen will be one of the next adds to my fifth wheel.
Do we even sell the S?
We don't.
So we don't sell the S because the S was sort of like a stopgap for a minute because, whenever there was like the big chip shortage that happened, industry wide through all electronics, the chips that were going into the Sero GX, they became unavailable, and so Victron just started using a less powerful chipset and put it into a less powerful Victron Sero GX, which was the Sero GX or SGX or whatever they called it.
SGX.
Yeah. And so it's basically just a less powerful version. And so since it was sort of a stopgap, a less powerful version, we're just like, let's just not sell that. Let's not put that in our store.
Yeah.
It didn't seem to make sense for the long run for sort of everybody. So yeah, I just recommend just getting the normal GX.
Cool. With the new Orion XS 12-1250, can the ground wire be attached to the frame of the pickup truck instead of the battery?
I don't like that idea, no, because then, at that point you're running your ground either through the 10 gauge wire of the 7-pin connector or through the hitch. We've got a wiring kit that, alleviates that problem. So if you go to shop and you go to wiring kits and you go to component wiring kits and then you go to alternator charging, you can see our Orion XS wiring kits. So all of our, the Orion XS 12-1250 DC to DC charger wiring kit, go into that. Running dedicated wiring just removes all doubt. I, for one, if I'm rolling around underneath a truck and trying to run wires through the RV, just run both your wires once, because doing that job twice sucks. I hate that process. And so, running a set of positive and negative wires from your truck starting battery all the way back to the Lynx distributor and then just popping an Anderson connector somewhere in the middle. That's the surefire way to sort of guarantee performance out of this device. So do it once, do it right. So you don't have to do it again.
Great. Mike asked, do you have any best practices for setting up ESS with a Multiplus 2 Victron inverter?
That's a pretty complicated topic that I have not made any tutorials nor videos over at this time. So basically, no. And that's more complicated of a discussion than sort of what we can have via live stream right here. So yeah, definitely wish I could help more. But whenever I haven't made any videos or made any blog posts or anything like that about the topic, it's kind of tough. If this is something, if you've purchased your Multiplus from us and you need help setting up ESS, you can reach out to our tech support, and I pretty much handle all the tech support emails for the most part that are of a technical nature, and we can get you pointed in the right direction. So that's, shop.explorers.life/support and fill out a order support ticket. So that I actually want to take a quick break and talk about something real quick that I've sort of been seeing in a lot of the Facebook groups I'm in. Is people ask about why would you choose one Victron dealer over another? Where do you get parts? How do you get cheap parts and stuff like that? And I wanted to address something real quick since we got a whole bunch of people, and this is sort of the sales pitch part of the of the thing. And so people always want to know where they can get cheap Victron components. And I think it's worth noting that in full transparency, Victron dictates what all dealers are allowed to sell their parts for. So there's Victron has MAP pricing, which is minimum advertised pricing policies. So you'll notice that on our store and on Amazon and on Battleborn store, on PKYS, we're all the same price. We can't go lower than that. We can't advertise lower than that. So if you're looking for deals and stuff like that, you're kind of sort of wasting your time. And if you do find coupons and stuff like that, then that particular manufacturer is sort of operating against Victron's rules, and they're sort of in danger of potentially losing their Victron dealer status. And so it's a pretty big deal. So, if you're sort of cost comparing, I'll just save you some time. We're all the same price. There's no really pricing games. And for kits and stuff like that, I think a lot of people see our store and they see the high prices, and then they look at Amazon and they may think that they can get things cheaper from Amazon. So Steph actually every quarter goes through and cost compares all of our stuff to Amazon, and we stay within 5% of Amazon That's 5% on either side, plus or minus.
Mm-hmm.
We don't adjust our prices unless we're outside of that 5% like margin. So some things we may be up to 5% more expensive on, but some things we might be up to 5% less expensive on for all of our kits. And so, in worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario, if all of our kits were 5% more than Amazon, it's 5% more. And I would imagine that by purchasing through shop.explorers.life so we can give customer support, it is probably worth 5%. That's pretty minimal in the grand scheme of things when a consulting session is $200. So I just wanted to recently I've just been seeing a lot of that in a lot of the Facebook groups and stuff like that. And I kind of wanted to explain our methodology on pricing so that there's a little bit more clarity there. So back to the questions.
Perfect. Okay, Matt asked, I plan to run a rooftop air conditioner, lights, a 12-volt fridge, and occasionally a small pressure washer. Do you generally recommend a 12-volt or 24-volt setup for something like this?
Yeah, so that sounds like you're going to be under like 3,000 watts of inverting capacity necessary. So yeah, 12-volt system is going to be perfect. Yeah, there'll be no problem there. 24 is really only for anything over 3,000 watts of inverting power, for the most part.
Yep. Okay, Brian asked, is it possible to install 2 Victron 50 amp DC to DC chargers on a 2020 Mercedes-Benz 3500 chassis leisure travel van? If so, are there any specific settings I should know about? And Chad already answered this in the chat, so I'm going to read his answer and then I'll let you answer as well.
Perfect.
Chad said the rule of thumb on the DC to DC chargers is to stay below 50% of your alternator's rating. So for example, if you have a 200 amp alternator, you wouldn't want to exceed 100 amps, which 2 50 amp DC to DC chargers would be 100 amps.
Yeah, the only thing I had, that's the exact correct answer. The only thing I have to add is most Mercedes have, I think the lowest alternator ratings that most of them have is 220 amps. So as long as you stay below like 110, then you're golden.
Yep. And Brian, we do have a dual Orion XS wiring kit on our shop. So if you go to shop.explorers.life, go to shop, wiring kits, component wiring kits, and then sort for alternator charging, there's a bunch of kits for Orion XS. And one of them, if you keep going down, it's the dual Orion. You're pointing at the retrofit, but
what?
So just make sure that you're getting the actual. Yeah, you got the right one.
Oh,
cool.
Oh, your screen's behind.
Yeah, it is a little bit behind, but when
what? I am not.
When you initially started pointing at it, it was the retrofit kit, and believe me, I have done that a million times. So. Just make sure you're not getting the retrofit unless you are actually retrofitting.
Yeah, so this particular page is starting to get kind of lengthy as there's more DC to DC charging options becoming available. So just pay attention to like Victron Orion XS 121250. That's obviously that version. We still do have the Orion TR Smart 121230. That's the older version. So, the differences between this is like, this one is the retrofit kit. So this one retrofits a 50 amp charger into a 30 amp charger, location where you may have had a 30 amp charger previously and you're upgrading to a 50 amp charger. That's a $25 kit. So that's pretty inexpensive. This one's for if you had 2 30 amp chargers. This one will let you retrofit in, dual 50 amp chargers. So that's sort of what the difference between like retrofit versus the actual kit is. So the retrofit kits are way less expensive because you already have most of the wiring in place and it's just a couple jumper wires basically. And then the from scratch installation kits are a little bit more expensive just because there's 20, 30, 40 feet of wire involved.
Yeah.
Copper's expensive.
Copper is very expensive. Our next question is actually on the same topic. Are you still in favor of stacking dual Orion 121230s or just upgrading to the Orion XS?
Oh, Orion XS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you haven't installed anything in terms of alternator charging, just go with the Orion XS. You know, it's the newest. It's small. It's going to run a lot less hot.
It'll communicate with the Sero GX.
Yeah.
VE smart networking.
Yeah, and it'll be more cost effective than doing the dual 12-12-30s.
Yeah.
To just do a single Orion XS 12-12-50.
Well, yeah, I mean, to sort of illustrate that, so there's a lot of wiring that needs to take place to wire dual Orions together. I mean, just looking at...
Yeah, and it's a mess.
I mean, yeah, it's like, so I've ranted about this internally. I mean, not like, yeah, I mean, that internally.
Internally to me.
With our team, like the dual Orion kits, they're my least favorite kits that we have. Like, they're fine and they work perfectly, but they're just a pain in the ass to like wire up just because there's so many little small jumper wires and stuff like that to go from the junction studs and all that kind of stuff. You know, you could just wire, you know, two of the single kits together and it would probably be less connections. But, you know, to sort of illustrate the point of, you know, the cost effectiveness of the new XS 12-12-50. So the XS 12-12-50 wiring kit. So the shortest wire length is $135, and then if you want dual 12-12-30s for 60 amps of charging, that wiring kit by itself is $330. So it's over twice as expensive as this. So you're getting 10 additional amps through dual 30 amp chargers, for nearly twice as expensive as the wiring kit is for the 12-12-50. So, I mean, it's way less expensive to just get the 12-12-50, from the get-go. Now, if you want two 12-12-50s for 100 amps of charging power, then that's a lot of power. You can really power a lot of stuff. You can pretty much power an air conditioner indefinitely with that kind of charging. And then that's where it's like probably actually worth going the expense of the dual DC to DC charging system.
Yeah. Cool. Brad said when I ordered my 2 solar charge controllers through you, I also ordered the wiring kits. That was the best thing and worth every penny spent. Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, that wasn't a question, but thank you very much. Brian said, have you considered selling Victron batteries in your store? They have a 12 volt, 330 amp hour battery with the form factor that fits well in my boat's existing battery boxes.
Yeah, we've definitely considered that. But the Victron smart lithium batteries, they require an external BMS. Their warranty is only 5 years compared to like Battleborn's 10-year. The external BMS, it requires more parts to set up, including a BMS, including smart battery protects. The programming is a little harder. And, maybe we'll sort of try to add those to our store and some of our wiring diagrams eventually. But I almost fear the amount of like tech support inquiries that are going to come through as a result of that, because it's not particularly user-friendly to set up. So, yeah, we've got a lot of other educational pieces of material to cover before we add something a little bit more complex like that to our store, because that's a unique part about our store versus, I just feel like I'm just selling everything, but I guess it's been on my mind, and that's okay. We don't sell anything that we haven't made a tutorial about, because if somebody asks, has a tech support question, I want to be able to refer people to a video or to a blog post that we've made that addresses that that problem in detail. And so, since we haven't done a lot of blog posts and videos about the Victron batteries, then we don't have them in our store. So,
yep, exactly. Lost in the Northwest added some more context on that Orion XS question. They said they have a 12-12-30 already installed and looking to get more charging power. So, I mean, in that case, I still think that it would be more cost effective to swap out the existing 12-12-30 for the Orion XS. The retrofit kit for that, I believe, is like a single wire, maybe.
Yeah, it's like $25.
Yeah, it's pretty inexpensive because it's basically just a single wire and a junction stud, and so swapping that out instead of, if you were to add a second 12-12-30 to your setup, you would have to entirely rewire what you have, because that's going to need 2-gauge wire rather than the 6-gauge wire that you already have run. So
you can sort of see that on the diagram for the retrofit kit. So this is how the 30 amp charger is wired. So positive and negative to input, and then positive and negative to the links distributor. And then the retrofit kit simply adds this junction stud whoa.
Grace also just popped up the
video for that
tutorial video for that.
Yeah, we made a video a couple months ago with Morgan and Ira, our installers. And yeah, check that out. That'll help it out. But yeah, this is all it is. Little short piece of wire, some ferrules, heat shrink, some lugs, and a junction stud. Probably 30 minutes of work, and you're good to go again.
Yeah, it was super simple. Okay. Let's see. Speaking of alternator charging, what is your preferred alternator? In my case, I'm in a marine environment with 2 big Detroit diesel engines.
I don't have a whole lot of experience in the wide world of alternators. The most common ones that we have in the RV world, which is probably more experienced with, is going to be Nations. Nations alternator is sort of the alternator of choice. They probably got the biggest selection of alternators for most places. But from marine, I don't really know. But I think if you're sticking with like Balmar, something along those lines, high quality. If you're in the marine world, you sort of know what the high quality alternators are going to be. But realistically, any of those like top tier alternators going to serve you like wonderfully. And then wake speed, integrates with a lot of those types of alternators, and then they can communicate with Victron equipment, which makes it pretty nice. So yeah, it's the voltage regulator, like the wake speed regulator. That's probably more important for communications than the actual alternator itself, given that the alternator can be controlled by the wake speed regulator.
Yeah. Cool. I think this is the last question we'll take.
One hour already?
Yeah, I know.
Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, pick a good question.
Well, it's the last question on here. So,
okay.
How do I test my battery bank to make sure all 4 batteries are generating power? Ha! Stumped him.
Well, I guess you could take a DC amp clamp and sort of put it in between each battery. I don't know why you would do that. That's not usually something we test. You can, if a battery is not producing power and isn't working, it usually manifests itself as a different problem. Like your voltage is going to be too low. Your batteries aren't going to be charging to full. You can't get so in the case of lithium that needs to be charged to whatever, let's call it 14.4, maybe no matter how long you leave your battery on the charger, it's not getting past 13.6 or something like that. If that's the case, then you start sort of troubleshooting. And at that point, you're going to be unwiring your battery bank and then testing each battery individually to see, if the battery voltage is lower on one battery than it is on the others, that's going to be sort of indicative of potential battery failure. But aside from that, if you're suspecting something like that, go ahead and reach out to your battery manufacturer, and they should be able to help you tech support and sort of troubleshoot, if something's wrong based on the types of batteries that you have. So yeah, basically just reach out to your battery manufacturer. They'll have more specific instructions and ideas for testing.
Cool. Awesome.
So that's it. We did it.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Well, thank y'all for showing up this morning or this evening, depending on where in the world you are. And we are going to go get ready for the Colorado Tiny House Festival this weekend. If y'all are in the Denver, Colorado area, come out and see us. Just Google Colorado Tiny House Festival. It's in Brighton.
Brighton.
Yeah, just outside of Denver.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly where it is, but yeah, just Google it.
Adams County Park, Adams Fairground, or something like that.
Sure, sounds good.
So that's it for this edition of the monthly live Q&A. Next month we'll be doing the same thing, probably on the first Friday of the month, given that it's not a holiday weekend, and if it is, it'll be the following Friday. And we'll keep doing this. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching the videos. Have a great weekend. Thanks to the moderator team for tuning in and helping out and sharing links and information. For everybody else, we'll see y'all later.